medium and long term. This partnership mission will strengthen Armenia's ability to manage crisis by providing advice and support to its relevant national institutions. The upcoming parliamentary elections on the 7th of June will be a defining moment for Armenia. The ongoing disinformation campaigns and cyber attacks are real and deliberate attempts to undermine the trust in democratic institutions. It is therefore crucial to continue standing by Armenia to counter those threats, to shield the democratic processes in the country, and to ensure that the will of the Armenian people is reflected in the outcome of the electoral process. Thank you very much.
Ganz herzlichen Dank. Das Wort der Herr
Thank you so much. Commissioner Kubilius, you have the floor, sir.
Madam Chair, honourable members, the European Union is a key partner for Armenia's future, standing with the country today to help build security, prosperity and lasting stability. Our cooperation is based on common values, shared vision for the future and respect for sovereign choices. European Union-Armenia relations have never been closer. The first ever European Union-Armenia summit, which will take place next week, marks a key milestone in our relationship. This upward trajectory is also reflected in intensified high-level engagement. As you know, Prime Minister Pashinyan addressed the European Parliament last month. Last month, Commissioner Kos and Commissioner Brunner travelled to Armenia. In a week, Armenia will host the 8th European Political Community Summit, right before the European Union-Armenia Summit. All Europe will come to Armenia. Later in the year, Yerevan will also host COP17. These significant events underscore Armenia's important role in the region. The recent progress in the Armenia-Azerbaijan peace process and normalization with Turkey have opened a window of opportunity for Armenia to strengthen its political and economic resilience and autonomy. However, the conflict in Iran has added to regional uncertainty and the situation remains fragile. Against this backdrop, our partnership with Armenia has been steadily deepening over the past 2 years and a half, reflecting the European Council's October 2023 mandate to, I quote, strengthen EU-Armenia relations in all their dimensions, end of quote. Let me give you a few examples. The Resilience and Growth Plan for 2024-2027, announced by President von der Leyen in 2024, doubling the funding for Armenia up to 270 million euros, is driving reforms, boosting investment in energy and transport, and strengthening Armenia's private sector. This momentum is further reinforced by the continued progress in our landmark visa liberalization dialogue. Armenia is currently the only country engaged in such a dialogue with the European Union. The adoption of the strategic agenda for European Union-Armenia partnership in December 2025 and of the second assistance measure under the European Peace Facility in January 2026. And last week, the decision to establish European Union Partnership Mission in Armenia. The European Union is also actively assisting the peace agenda normalization with Armenia's neighbors. A simple look at the flight map between Asia and Europe in recent weeks shows just how important this region is. Armenia has a key role to play in the rollout of the connectivity agenda and the development of the Trans-Caspian transport corridor. Europe's own experience shows how connectivity can support stability. This is why the European Union is supporting Armenia by investing in transport, energy, and digital connections, creating jobs, boosting trade, and strengthening resilience. Connectivity is also about people. People-to-people initiatives will strengthen societal resilience and facilitate exchanges and long-term mutual understanding. Within this framework of cooperation, strengthening Armenia's democratic resilience is part of our ongoing support to the country in the short, medium, and long term. The European Union supports Armenia's ability to make its own sovereign choices through free and fair elections. We support Armenia's democratic institutions, civil society, and independent media so they can create the conditions for Armenians to express themselves freely and vote for their future without interference or disruptions. Our comprehensive support goes to, first of all, civil society, because a vibrant civil society is essential for democracy, peace and stability. And I am proud to say that the European Union is the largest supporter of civil society in Armenia. Second, independent media, because independent media ensures transparency, holds power to account, and provides early warning against corruption, abuse, and democratic backsliding, co-pillars of a resilient state. And third, Armenian institutions, because independent institutions enable fair decision-making, protect rights, and help societies withstand crisis and external pressures, reinforcing public confidence in the democratic system. Part of our work is oriented towards media literacy, to enable citizens to critically assess information, resist disinformation, and make informed decisions. The European Union is committed to support Armenia in becoming a more secure, prosperous, and resilient country, which can be a strong partner, ensure stability and prosperity in the region. Thanks a lot.
Herzlichen Dank, Herr Kommissar.
Thank you, Commissioner. On behalf of the EPP, our colleague, Mrs. Lexman.
Thank you, Madam President, dear colleagues, dear Commissioner. As a rapporteur of this House for Armenia and for the relations with Armenia, I want to underline why today's debate truly matters. EU-Armenia relations have reached a pivotal moment. Armenia has in the past years demonstrated a genuine commitment to democracy, and our partnership today is an example of what closer cooperation can achieve. Armenia has clearly signaled its path, a path of peace, reconciliation, and prosperity for its people, a path of closer cooperation with Europe. But precisely for this reason, we see unprecedented rise of Russian influence in the country, through its proxies, through its oligarchs and other malign influencers, through disinformation campaigns and other hybrid threats designed to undermine democracy, as Russia managed to do in Georgia already. Colleagues, Armenia remains the sole democracy in the region. We must do our utmost to support and safeguard the upcoming elections and Armenia's vibrant democracy system. As Prime Minister Pashinyan rightly explained to Vladimir Putin last week, it is the Armenian people who must decide about the country's future. And our role is to stand by Armenia and with them in this election. I put my full trust in the Commission, and the Commission can play an important role in this action. Thank you.
Herzlichen Dank für die S&D-Fraktion.
Thank you so much. Mr. Maniatis, on behalf of the Socialists.
Madam President, Commissioner, the European Union needs to work with the Armenian authorities to make sure that the upcoming elections are free and fair. We need to eliminate any interference from third countries, something which unfortunately we've seen take place many times in third countries and indeed even within the Union. At the same time, we need to ensure that even the government itself doesn't interfere in the elections. We need to make sure that all political parties will be able to carry out their campaign without facing undue burden or obstacles. Unfortunately, over the last few months, we've seen worrying phenomena, such as bloggers posting and messages shared by the Armenian Church. It's just a few days after the anniversary of the Armenian genocide, and we must never forget also the many refugees from Nagorno-Karabakh. We must require Azerbaijan to respect cultural heritage and to take action for those hostages which are still being detained.
Spricht nun die Kollegin.
Thank you, Mrs. Furet, on behalf of the PFE.
Madame le Président.
President, honourable members, when Brussels talks about democratic resilience in Armenia, it hides the brutal truth. What we're seeing is not a political matter. It is survival of the world's first Christian country, a vanguard for our civilization, and security is fragile. Sadly, the European Union preaches a good game, but it is very cynical. The Commission financed the war machine in Azerbaijan by buying in gas, and now it weeps crocodile tears over Armenia and its fate. The current peace agreement is not down to Brussels diplomacy, but the decisive intervention by Washington. The Armenian people can now decide their own fate in peace, safe from blackmail. Defending Armenia is not a technocratic project. It is defending, championing our very roots. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. On behalf of ECR, Mr. Kiadis.
Today, we're discussing a resolution related to Armenia, a text which has quite some positive points, particularly related to the democratic European path of Armenia, but it also has references which are quite problematic when it comes to its military orientation. Recently, as part of my duties as an MEP, I met with Armenians in Armenia, Cyprus, and elsewhere. What I noticed was quite concerning. It's a different world. They have different perceptions and very different political views. On the one hand, some are concerned with the occupation, some have experienced war crimes, some are still fighting for their historical justice they deserve. So, we must ensure that our diplomacy doesn't just remain in words. All those who keep historical memory alive are doing the right thing. We must never forget the history of Armenia.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Loiseau. On behalf of Renew, Armenia is a miracle. Do you realize the people of Armenia have been attacked? There have been massacres and genocide, and recently through an ethnic cleansing of the Higher Karabakh. But the Armenians are still there. They're still standing strong, proud of their religion, of their civilization, and want to keep supporting this. And this is what we can see in Armenia. The democracy in Armenia is a miracle. Look at a map. Look at the neighbors. There's not a single democracy around them. Azerbaijan, with its hereditary leadership, and Turkey, run by Erdogan, and since 2018 and the Velvet Revolution, there's true democracy. Courageous reforms have been taken, a fight against corruption. And this is what Armenia wants to protect, and that is what Russia wants to destroy. Just a few weeks from now, we have the elections. There is interference by Russia in this election. So let us not believe in miracles. Let us support the Armenians to decide freely in these elections. Armenia trusts in Europe. So let us not disappoint it. Thank you. Thank you so much. On behalf of the Green Group, I'd like to give the floor to Mrs. Gregorova.
Armenia is on the front line. What we saw in Georgia, what we witnessed in Moldova, the disinformation, the cyber attacks, the hybrid pressure is now being tested in Yerevan. This is not a coincidence. This is a playbook. Foreign interference does not only target elections, it targets trusts. It targets the belief that your vote matters, that your choice and voice cannot be bought, manipulated, or silenced. Armenia has shown courage But courage alone is not enough. We need strong institutions, transparent legal frameworks and genuine partnership with civil society, because civil society is often the first to see the threat and the last line of defense. And the European Union must deliver concrete, targeted support, not declarations, but action. Thank you.
Vielen Dank. Für die
Thank you so much. On behalf of the Left Group, our colleague, Mr. Georgi.
Madam President, honourable members, supporting democratic resilience in Armenia so that we see strong institutions is important for peace. It's good to see the positive developments with Azerbaijan, as well as the current developments to try and secure the release of political prisoners. Diplomacy and democracy can function. We don't need to enforce it, and unfortunately we're hearing some continuously bang the drums of war. Armenia needs to be strengthened through free elections, transparency, media freedom and pluralism. The European prospects for Armenia need to be developed through the right criteria in line with the Copenhagen criteria. Thank you.
herzlichen Dank.
Thank you. On behalf of the ESN.
Really, you are not ashamed. How can you talk about democratic processes, freedom and fair election in Armenia, criticize Russian interference when it is the current European Commission which systematically destroys democracy and freedom of speech in the EU? You were those who obviously interfered 8 times in free and democratic elections in Slovakia in 2023, and you decided on social networks which profiles are supposed to be erased. Prosím vás.
Cannot follow, please.
Should I start again? No, but with the last sentence, please.
You interfered in democracy in Slovakia, limited possibility for some politicians to spread information freely and access of people to freedom, because they criticized this commission, talked about corruption in this commission, about you flood Europe with migrants, destroyed industry and future of our children, and you criminalize some speeches. You want to arrest your political opponents. You cannot accuse Russia. It is the European Commission which is the main perpetrator and destroys democracy. You are the enemy of democracy and freedom. You are the prime problem we need to solve.
Thank you. Mr. Halitsky.
For Armenia, oparte o demokrację.
Ladies and gentlemen, Armenia has chosen democracy and development based on democracy. That is food for thought for us, because the European Union is more than an economic or political endeavour. We need to ensure that our citizens can enjoy security and growth based on the shared values of democracy across all member states. That is why the upcoming summit in Yerevan on the 5th of May is so important. It is the first time we will have held this type of summit in a country in the Caucasus. We will achieve an unprecedented goal under the Eastern Partnership and the Parliamentary Assembly. This is a key objective for the EU in future. If the EU is to safeguard peaceful development, then it needs to be stronger and more integrated. Let us make the most of this opportunity. We are an attractive prospect for others. We can build a stronger Europe. There are countries looking to us and counting on us.
Groups, I tend to be a bit stricter with the speaking time, but I say it now. Our next speaker is Mr. Ross Sempera.
Vielen Dank. Commissario.
Commissioner, Armenia is living a very decisive moment, and the Union needs to support this country, supporting the people of Armenia. The summit should consolidate a much closer relationship, and Europe needs to help strengthen the democratic institutions of Armenia and to contribute to stability so that there's no dependability from the energy and connectivity point of view and digital transition. The war of Russia against Ukraine clearly shows that we need to reduce our dependency, we need to strengthen our connections and promote renewables, and this leads to democratic stability. At the same time, we must firmly react to hybrid attacks, to external interference, which wants to destabilize the region. The Azerbaijan peace process has opened a window, and we need to have an agreement which is based on international law. Europe needs to stand side by side with Armenia to defend the rule of law and respect its sovereignty. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Nikolic.
Franchement, j'ai rarement vu un...
To be honest, I've rarely seen a debate like this in all of your resolutions. You talk about democratic progress, you talk about the developing rule of law in Armenia. But the right that Armenians actually have is the right to live in peace without being threatened every 4 days by their neighbours in Turkey and Azerbaijan, as has been the case for a century. Have you seen the refugee camps in Armenia? Because I have. Yeah, you can talk about democratic resilience and all of this, but what about these men, women and children forced to flee their homes, forced to flee the land of their ancestors, forced out by Azerbaijani soldiers? All they want is to return to their home in Nagorno-Karabakh. They don't want to hear about these empty concepts here from the Eurocrats of the European Parliament. Oh, go ahead, Ms. Loiseau, say whatever you like. You just talked about an democratic Armenia. Well, in that case, stop buying gas from Azerbaijani. Do something about the huge amounts of land which are being occupied by foreign powers. Help the refugees from Nagorno-Karabakh, and finally bring an end to Turkey's accession process under Erdogan, because they never acknowledge the massacre of 1.5 million Armenians, and then finally will be consistent.
Thank you. Mr. Brandstetter.
Danke, Frau Präsidentin, Frau Ministerin.
Thank you, President.
When democracy is under siege and autocrats act with impunity, Armenia stands like a beacon of hope. Surrounded by autocracies, it proves that democracy can thrive even in the toughest neighborhoods. Armenia is Europe with values, history, and culture. Yet Armenia's democracy now faces a very critical test, the parliamentary elections in June, and we know Putin will stop at nothing to sabotage this process. We cannot let this happen. And one more thing, people ask me, why do you talk about Armenia? Is Armenia important for us? Yes, it is important for us. It's in our neighborhood. It's a democracy, and we want to have trade, we want to have good relations, and we need security. And for all that, a democratic Armenia is very necessary. And one more thing that's interesting, there are so many countries who want to be part of the European Union. You know any country that wants to be part of the United States? No. They want to be here because this is the continent of freedom. This is the continent that thrives. That's the continent of human rights. Europe is great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Lagodinsky.
Every time I meet Nikol Pashinyan, the courageous Prime Minister of Armenia, he emphasizes an essential point. The pro-European reforms are not for someone else. They are for Armenians. And indeed, it is important to remind the voters, also in these June elections, democracy is not for someone else. These elections are not for someone else, and the peace deal is not for someone else, it is for Armenians themselves. And this is precisely why all the democratic reforms deserve to be guarded against manipulation, because interference is for someone else, for Moscow, for Peking, for corruption, a corrupt oligarch or clergy with ties to FSB. And this is why the European Union, we will support Armenian democracy. We will activate the mechanism against interference. We have brought experience of other affected countries like Moldova, and we have expedited a lot of cooperation, including the process of visa liberalization, not because it is for EU, because it is for Armenians themselves.
Vielen Dank.
Thank you. Mr. Clausen.
Armenien står over for store.
Armenia faces several major challenges, one of them being the many fugitives from the war with Azerbaijan. Another is the pressure that the country is facing from Russia. But another one is the state of democracy in the country, which is under internal pressure. These are problems that require an active effort from the side of Armenia, but also help and support from us. And of course, Armenia should have the opportunity to join the EU if they want to, and first and foremost, if they meet our requirements. But in all honesty, there are problems that need to be handled first, problems that damage the state of democracy, problems such as corruption, which unfortunately have yet to be resolved. We're seeing a clear lack of protection and respect for LGBTQ people's basic rights, and the same can be said when it comes to respect for trade unions and workers' rights. Strengthening Armenia's democracy will require tackling these challenges head-on together.
Ms. Yuknevicini.
Colleagues, Yerevan is becoming the capital of democracy in the South Caucasus. It is certainly not perfect yet, but it is a real hope for all of us that a stable peace will be established and the Armenian people will open up to cooperation. For us, the EU, this region is an extremely important neighborhood. The upcoming parliamentary elections in Armenia will be a kind of referendum on the future of the country. Similarly, as in Moldova, the Kremlin is throwing all its instruments at it to regain influence. I do not believe that they will succeed. I will quote a sentence from Prime Minister Pashinyan's address to the European Parliament, quote, "If the EU accepts Armenia as a full member, it will be a great. If it doesn't, then we will still benefit because we will be a country that has fully complied with the EU standards. The Armenians are reaching out to us. Let us extend our hands as well. More democracies in Europe, more peace." Thank you.
Vielen Dank.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Germain.
Chers collègues,
Colleagues, Friday last was the anniversary of the Armenian genocide, and I'd like to pay tribute to the 1.5 million victims. And this is a truth that we need to look in the face when new crimes against humanity are held. 120,000 Armenians were displaced in 2023. All of us, many of us, have said that the European Council, without delay, needs to take action against those responsible. The 19 prisoners that are still imprisoned in Baku need to be released, and we need to defend the right to return of those who have been displaced. In this resolution, we need to help Armenia because of the Nagorno-Karabakh war and need to protect them from the cyber attacks. That is why I welcome the civil mission of the European Union in Armenia, so that our brothers and sisters in Armenia can live in peace, in democracy, and in freedom.
Thank you. Mr. Martha Ibanez.
Thank you, Madam President. In 6 weeks, Armenians go to the polls. Beyond parties, candidates, and debates, there is an invisible fight: disinformation, cyber attacks, foreign money. All this designed to pull Armenia away from its democratic path. Dear colleagues, the Armenian people has earned our solidarity the hard way, through war and siege, through the forced displacement of the people of Arzakh, through genocide, and through a weight of history that no people should ever have to carry. Armenia chose Europe, and now Europe must respond. But our solidarity cannot be turned into a blank endorsement. Our engagement must be conditional on values, on rule of law, on accountability. We must celebrate the reforms, and we must continue asking for democratic standards. This is why the EU Partnership Mission is a step, but a step that must go further. Because what happens in Yerevan or in Artsakh doesn't stay in Yerevan. Thank you.
Herzlichen Dank.
Thank you. Mr. Altola.
Puheenjohtaja, arvoisa komissaari.
President, dear Commissioner, Russia is the greatest security threat in Europe, and even so, there are people here who think that we should negotiate with the Kremlin. That's wrong. We cannot trust Russia. Moscow does not even defend its own allies, and in the worst case, it attacks the ones it has a security agreement with, as happened in Ukraine. In 2023, once Nagorno-Karabakh was emptied, it just looked upon what happened. Exactly same thing has repeated itself in Central Asia. These security guarantees have been totally worthless, and every neighbor understands that. We need this is a strategic place for us to act. We must show that we can defend ourselves with building a relationship with different countries without Russia, by supporting other countries and having partnerships with them. This means a weaker Russia when Europe is stronger.
Dankeschön.
Thank you, Mr. Brejza.
Szanowni Państwo posłowie.
Thank you. Honourable members, Armenia dreamed of Europe. It plays a key role in the Southern Caucasus, key for security and stability in the region. Despite Russia and Putin's intervention and powerful force, Armenia has chosen Europe and democracy. It has chosen democratic values and shown bravery. That bravery deserves our support. The upcoming elections are a real test for Armenia. They need to be free and honest, fair elections, allowing Armenians to decide their own fate. We need to ensure that Armenia's future will be decided by Armenians and not KGB agents. Catch the eye now. We'll begin with Mr. Lopez Aguilar and then Mr. Tunkanen.
Moment, 316, bitte.
Just a minute. Microphone, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Armenia is a democratic state. It's a member of the Council of Europe. So it's a partner of the European Union. It's a country committed to human rights, democracy, and to the peaceful resolution of conflicts. You know, when we look at the Council of Europe, Russia went to war on Georgia and elsewhere. Now Russia's at war with Ukraine. So it's very clear that we need to support those who are really choosing a democratic transition based on the right values. However, we mustn't lose sight at any time of the rights of the displaced persons from Nagorno-Karabakh and the Armenians that are now stuck in an enclave within Azerbaijan. So I think we should support the restitution of the rights of those peoples and make sure that all peoples of the ex-Soviet Union are listened to. We should listen carefully to the Armenian Prime Minister on the next opportunity in the plenary.
Thank you, Mr. Tunkunen, and then we'll hear from Mr. Mavridis afterwards.
Dear Speaker, Armenia is getting ready for parliamentary elections to be held in June. These elections will define the country's future. They are about taking distance from Russia and its military alliance and becoming closer with Europe. That choice is to be welcomed. Of course, the Kremlin does not accept losing influence quietly. We have seen it before in Georgia, Moldova, and elsewhere. We know the playbook. Russian malign influence must be fought on all levels. The future path of the country must be decided by the Armenian people, not by Russia. I have a message to all countries at this same crossroads, deciding between a European path and a Russian one. Choose wisely. You don't want your country to end up like Lukashenko's Belarus. Thank you.
Dankeschön. Thank you. Now, Mr. Mavridis. And then we'll hear from Mr. Terhesh.
Thank you, Madam President. The value of the EU to support democratic resilience in Armenia is critical, but we need to stress that such engagement must be conducted in strict adherence to the principle of political neutrality. Any form of external involvement would undermine the credibility of the electoral process. As far as Azerbaijan, it must show its commitment through concrete confidence-building measures, including the unconditional release of the remaining Armenian political prisoners, and for EU to place the situation of prisoners explicitly on the agenda of its engagement with the Azerbaijani regime. The Armenian-Azerbaijan normalization process bears considerable weight for Armenian society and has a profound impact on the country's democratic and institutional situation. Finally, we don't forget the Armenian genocide and reaffirm our previously stated position on the protection of the rights of Armenians forcibly displaced from Nagorno-Karabakh, including the protection of their property, cultural heritage, and identity.
Dankeschön. Thank you. Mr. Terhesh.
Thank you. With this resolution on Armenia, we must send a clear and balanced message. The European Parliament is supporting peace, stability, and reconciliation in Southern Caucasus. The future of the region depends on the sustainable peace process between Armenia and Azerbaijan and the normalization of relations between Armenia and Turkey. The European Union must remain a credible partner for dialogue, confidence building, and long-term regional cooperation. Our role is not to deepen divisions, but to encourage a peaceful and durable settlement that benefits all people and countries of the region. Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan reminded us exactly in this chamber that Armenia's path towards closer relations with the European Union is closely connected to EU's relations with Georgia. The road between Europe and Armenia literally passes through Georgia. Armenia and Georgia should both be seen as strategic partners of the European Union and essential pillars for connectivity, stability, and cooperation in the Black Sea and South Caucasus region. Europe's engagement in the region must therefore be inclusive, forward-looking, and based on partnership. We are therefore fully supporting Armenia on its Western and prosperous path towards closer integration with the European Union. Thank you.
Vielen Dank. Thank you. Now on behalf of the Commission, Commissioner Kubilius.
Madam Chair, honourable members, again, thanks a lot for this exchange. Armenia's parliamentary elections taking place in just 5 weeks will be a defining moment for the future of the country. As Armenia advances on its chosen path, it is facing growing external pressure, including foreign information manipulation, disinformation, and other hybrid threats. These actions are deliberate. They are designed to undermine trust, weaken democratic institutions, and influence sovereign choices. Allow me to underline 3 points in my concluding remarks. First, we stand by our partners. When Armenia asks for support, the European Union responds. Every step of this partnership reflects Armenian choices. Second, Our support aims at protecting Armenian sovereignty, to ensure that on 7th of June, the Armenian people and no one else determines Armenia's future. Third, the European Union does not pick winners. Our interest is in a free, fair and credible election. Who wins is entirely a matter for Armenian voters. Next week, the first EU-Armenia summit will represent an historic moment in our partnership. It will be an opportunity to demonstrate to Armenian citizens that Armenia is a respected and important regional partner for the European Union. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Commissioner. To wind up, we'll now hear from the Council, Minister Rauna.
Madam President, honourable members, Commissioner, thank you very much for this exchange. Armenia finds itself in a crucial juncture, and our partnership has a growing significance. The next months will have a significant impact on the country's future trajectory. We commend Armenia's progress in democratic reforms, and we stand by Armenia as it continues to strengthen its democracy and rule of law. We will continue deepening our partnership and our cooperation, also in ensuring that Armenia is equipped to face foreign interference. As it was just mentioned, the European Union stands by its partners and it stands in support of their sovereignty. At the same time, it is equally important that every citizen in Armenia feels our commitment and benefits from this partnership. Together, we will work to continue fostering stability, promoting prosperity, and addressing shared challenges in ways that benefit Armenia, the wider region of the South Caucasus, and the European Union as a whole. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you especially to Andrei Halicki, who stayed until the end of the debate. Zum Abschluss der Aussprache.
6 motions for resolution were submitted to wind up this debate. The debate is closed and the vote will be held on Thursday. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is explanations of votes. We'll begin with Mr. Mureșan and Ms. Tavares' recommendation, the interim report on the multi-annual financial framework 2028 to 2034. We'll hear from Mr. Oliveira.
Obrigado, Presidente. Deixámos claras as razões da nossa discordância com esta proposta do próximo quadro financeiro.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's not just a question of the MFF. It's not just a question of there being a 12% reduction of funds for Portugal, but also, you know, this is a bad proposal. We have tabled alternative proposals. Many of the proposals that we proposed is increase in the budget, especially for those countries that receive most from the budget. We want to reduce the funds in the area of defence and war. We want to improve the living conditions and development cooperation. We have also put forward a budget for economic and social actions for fisheries and agriculture, with a 65% in the social fund, European Social Fund, and a 50 billion for other actions, also housing, life, and for those ultra-peripheral regions. This is a proposal which is very negative for the MFF.
Thank you. Next, we have an explanation of vote on the report of Dick Eriksson, Control of the Financial Activities of the EIB Group, Annual Report 2024. Once again, explanation of vote from Mr. Oliveira.
Obrigado, Presidente.
Thank you, President. we voted on EIB investment, and we voted against this report because we disagree with the political stance guiding actions taken by the EIB. There is priority given to investment in military, security and defence. We see a focus on competitiveness, profits. This report welcomes the EIB decision to broaden the eligibility criteria in militarization fields. There are a host of initiatives that will be lasting. The report welcomes cooperation with NATO. There are projects in the field of education. And we see a reduction in social investment. This runs counter to the interests of citizens and the cohesion policy.
Dankeschön.
Thank you very much. We now move to explanations on the report of Evan Inchia and Joanna Scheuring-Wilgus, Importance of Consent-Based Rape Legislation in the EU. The first explanation is from Mr. Tehesh.
Thank you. Am votat împotriva raportului.
Thank you. I voted against the report which promotes a consent-based rape legislation. Although the premise is correct and the lack of consent should be taken as part of how to prove rape, but there are problems of an ideological nature, including consent as part of the definition for rape is welcome. The main problem is that the report only focuses on rape committed by men on women, but mixes the biological terms of men and women with gender identity. Statistics show very clearly that most rapes are committed by biological males on biological women, meaning by men on women. And when I asked the members of parliament how to define women that this law tries to protect, they said, everyone can be whatever they want, and it is not up to us to define what a woman is. Well, it is precisely our job to define laws that are clear, precise, and that punish abuse against women. If a man sexually abuses a woman and afterwards he identifies as a woman, are we talking about rape on a woman or about lesbian relations? That is why I voted against. Thank you.
Dankeschön.
Thank you very much. Now an explanation from Ms. Timgren.
Thank you. Den här omröstningen handlar inte om kvinnors trygghet.
Yes, on this vote, we weren't dealing with the safety of women. It was just political game playing with slogans. And on the left, well, if they really cared about protecting women from sexual violence, they would have worked with us to have greater penalties for foreign rapists. And yet they've always voted against stricter penalties. These people coming in from countries with cultures so different from ours, and they're not held accountable. They pretend they care about women, but they're not providing any legal certainty. It sounds like you would, of course, want to vote in favour of this, but we need to look at this from a legal perspective and think about the presumption of innocence. At the EU level, we shouldn't simply overturn that. That's why we voted against.
So, damit sind wir am
That brings us to the end of our explanation of votes. The next session will be tomorrow at 9 a.m. The agenda has been published and is available on the website of the European Parliament. The minutes of today's meeting will be submitted for approval tomorrow. The sitting is closed.